Pacific leaders are due to meet with US President Joe Biden after the UN General Assembly, which gets underway in New York this week. The full schedule for US Pacific Summit has yet been finalised, but New Zealand's Foreign Affairs Minister Nanaia Mahuta has confirmed it will be taking place on Monday next week US time. Ms. Mahuta departs for New York and the UN meeting this week off the back of attending the Pacific Islands Forum Foreign Ministers meeting in Suva, Fiji last week. Lydia Laws spoke with the minister on Monday ahead of her departure about the outcomes of the Suva meeting.
This meeting was a meeting for foreign ministers, and the leaders' meeting will take place in November. So the tone of the discussion was really around prioritising Pacific architecture, which is the Pacific Island Forum, as a means to engage strategic partners to focus on priorities that were identified in the 2050 Blue Pacific Strategy. And as you've already noted, labour mobility was an issue. Of course, climate change is a prescient issue, as well as the release of treated nuclear wastewater from Fukushima into the ocean.
And just going back to that labour mobility quickly, Whia-Mayor Naomi Matafa has been very vocal about this issue. What did she raise at this meeting, and what will New Zealand do in response to that, or what did you commit to anything?
Different concerns of different Pacific countries in relation to labour mobility. One of the concerns is the impact on the domestic labour market. And so with initiatives like our RSE scheme and Australia's equivalent scheme, there is a sensitivity from countries like Samoa about the impact on the domestic labour market. In other countries, it's not as much of a consideration. So I think what we're trying to ensure is, certainly from New Zealand's point of view, is that we're sensitive to the views across the Pacific. And as you may be aware, we've already undertaken a review of our RSE scheme.
And Vanuatu has made some really significant steps for climate change. The UN General Assembly has adopted a Vanuatu-led resolution calling for an advisory opinion for the International Court of Justice on climate change and human rights. With a change of government in Vanuatu, can we afford to let climate ambitions like this fall through the cracks?
Look, we have to firstly acknowledge that what Vanuatu has done in seeking an advisory opinion from the ICJ, that they have elevated the importance of addressing climate change for the whole of the Pacific. Irrespective of whether there's a change of government, climate change remains a high ambition issue for the whole of the Pacific, because sea level rise has a direct impact on Pacific states.
So did New Zealand make a submission to the ICJ?
We will, and we encouraged other Pacific nations to do so, and we also helped Vanuatu shape up the recommendation that went to the ICJ, and I happened to be in Vanuatu when that announcement came out, so I was pleased that we have been absolutely consistent in supporting the Pacific aspiration of addressing climate change and Vanuatu's petition or submission to the ICJ in particular.
And statehood, that was also discussed. Does New Zealand support Tuvalu's change in its definition of statehood? Yes,
well, this is the thing. Sea level rise affects the Pacific nations, and if you look at Pacific states like Tuvalu, they will be critically impacted by sea level rise. So we do think that this is an area where we can continue to pursue greater clarification of statehood as countries like Tuvalu are impacted by sea level rise and have less and less of their own sovereign terrestrial space to live upon. And so we think that this is an important matter to support.
Now to Fukushima, I understand a joint statement was agreed upon. I haven't seen that yet, but I understand that it is very similar to what has been issued in the past surrounding the differing views and continued dialogue. But moving forward, will a Labour-led government strengthen its stance on this Fukushima issue? And particularly ahead of the leaders' meeting in Rarotonga, which is just after the election. Would you take options to that forum meeting to support small island states, some of which want to take Japan to court? What will you do to actually support them, not just, enhancing dialogue, which has been the line that I've heard many times?
We've taken a very consistent position. We have endorsed the IAEA as the international expert on nuclear matters that is science-based. We've encouraged Japan and the IAEA to engage with the Pacific around the release of nuclear wastewater because it is a sensitive issue and there are nuclear legacy issues. And we've joined with other Pacific states to have a common statement in relation to Fukushima and the release of nuclear wastewater. One of the key aspects of that shared statement was to recognise that there is a need to build regional scientific capacity and monitoring capabilities to assist in understanding the health and well-being of marine ecosystems of the Blue Pacific, including to human health, when treated nuclear wastewater is released into the Pacific. So we've got to build up that science-based understanding within the region.
Now, this week, Pacific states are meeting with the US. Was New Zealand invited?
Yes, New Zealand and Australia were invited as a grouping of the Pacific Island Forum, and it's going to be important that we continue to engage proactively with strategic partners in the Pacific region.
So will you be attending this meeting? Are you heading to the US?
Yes, I will be.
When do you leave?
Tomorrow night.
Okay, and what day is the meeting with the President, Joe Biden?
The meeting will follow the UN General Assembly.
So on Tuesday?
The timing is out, but US time, it's Monday.
Okay, so you'll be meeting with President Biden along with other Pacific states?
I'll be standing alongside Pacific states, yes.
Okay, and what will they call for?
I don't have detail of the exact format as of yet. And as I say, that meeting will follow the UN General Assembly meeting.
Cool. And finally, what are New Zealand's priorities heading into the leaders' meeting in Rarotonga?
Well, New Zealand's priorities will be on regional architecture and strengthening the Pacific Island Forum as the key forum to assure the region of Pacific centrality and articulate the views from the Pacific. Climate change will be a key issue for the region, and that is something that New Zealand endorses. Also on the issue of labour mobility and security issues.
Thank you, Vinaka Vakalevu, for your time and all the best on your travels.
Vinaka, kia ora.
Kia ora.
A spokesperson from Mahuta's office has confirmed that Pacific leaders are scheduled to meet with the US President Joe Biden on Monday, the 25th of September, US time.